Dave Weinberg, entering his 26th season as the Eagles beat writer for the Press of Atlantic City. Stops by on Wednesdays to chat birds, where today, Dave, he appears via the Boardwalk on the hotline. Dave, we learned today that the Eagles are going to start Nick Foles at quarterback against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not a surprise there. But I guess the question really becomes, do you think there's like a method to this, or do you think as soon as Carson Wentz is cleared and ready to go that he will be the guy, or do you think they're just going to kind of go based on opponent or based on how their record is, or is it as simple as cleared to play, Wentz goes?
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I think as soon as Carson's medically cleared to have contact, then I think he'll be out there. I don't know that the opponent matters or the site matters, but I do think that they're going to take an extremely cautious approach to this. I mean, most people are thinking that he's going to come back next week against Indianapolis. I'm not so sure of that. I think it all depends on, what the testing results show, and until he's absolutely 100%, I don't think they're going to take a chance.
At this stage, when they say he's not cleared for contact, my question has kind of been, and I know he was asked this today, Doug, and he kind of avoided it, but if they say he's cleared for contact, what is the timeline from that comment to, all right, you're ready to play an NFL game? I mean, is it as simple as you're cleared for contact, you now start?
Well, I do think that he's going to need a full week of practice, but I would anticipate that that's when he's going to get the go-ahead. Like when he's ready to play, you'll see Doug make that announcement probably on Monday, maybe Wednesday at the latest, but you will see that'll be I think Carson needs a full week before he just can't come out there on Friday and practice for the first time, full go, and then expect to be ready for Sunday. I think that they're going to give him he's going to need a whole week just to get in sync with the receivers. He's been taking some rest with the first team offense, we're told, but until he gets 100% of the reps, then I think you'll see him out there.
I know that this game here against Tampa Bay, many people thought coming into the week or into the season, Tampa struggled last year. They have the backup quarterback. Winston's not in. But obviously they played pretty well, and Nick Foles did not have his best game the other night, but do you think getting that first game under his belt, because he did not play a lot in the preseason, do you anticipate seeing a much better Nick Foles, or do you still think that, we're going to see him struggling without Alshon Jeffery and some other parts missing on that offense?
No, I think you'll see a better version of him. If you remember last year, he kind of struggled at the outset and then gradually got better as it went on. I think Doug will probably he talked about it today, about finding different ways to not guarantee success, but to improve the chances of success early on, just to get him into a rhythm. Some short passes, some high percentage throws, just so he can get a little bit more confidence. I think you'll see his supporting cast play better too. I mean, Zach Ertz had an awful game on Thursday night, and that's atypical of him. He's a much better player than that, so I think you'll see him bounce back. I think they're going to try and get Mike Wallace a little bit more involved too as the game goes on. He didn't have any catches on Thursday, so I think once he gets more comfortable with the supporting cast that he has, I think you'll see him play better.
Hey, Dave, the Eagles are going up against a couple former Eagles on the defensive line. Gerald McCoy is up there. Talk about the Eagles' identity from the offensive side of the ball and how they're going to combat the Buccaneers' strong suit, which is the defensive line, and that defense who gave up 40 points against the Saints, but could potentially cause some havoc against the Eagles.
Yeah, their line is very strong, particularly McCoy, but they're very familiar, with Vinny Curry and Bo Allen. But I would say that the Eagles' offensive line matches up pretty well against those guys. I would venture to say that their offensive line is among the best in the league. So I don't think that there's anything that the Bucs defensive line necessarily can throw at them that'll take them by surprise. I mean, if Jason Peters I think one of the potential hurdle there is because the heat and humidity is going to be a factor on Sunday. Jason Peters might need a break here and there. You got to hope that Big V can play much better than he did in the preseason and hold the fort down until Jason can get back out there when he does. So, but when they're going on all cylinders, that offensive line's as good as it gets. I don't see Tampa Bay posing that much of a problem.
Real quick, Dave, on Wentz, I want to go back to that because the report from Mortensen was that there was much more optimism inside the Eagles organization. Now, you said they don't let you walk practice, but you guys are walking around the building and, Do you feel that same way, that there is a sense that Carson is sooner than later, as I think that was the exact quote from Mortensen, was sooner than later?
I don't know what that means, to be honest with you.
Well, there was a report last week that he was going to be – it was looking more like week 7, 8, or 9, and now you're hearing, it could be week 2, but sooner than later, most likely week 3. So that's a big difference, 3 to 7.
Yeah. I mean, I was never of the opinion where it was going to take that long for him to get back. I think he's made steady progress. I still think there's a little bit ways to go just by, the little that we see. But I wouldn't expect him to take that long. I don't think it'll be a huge surprise to see him next week against Indianapolis or maybe the week after that. But I think the 7-week thing was probably extreme cautious outlook on it.
We also know that, at this stage of the game, the Eagles defense is pretty darn good. When you watch them play against the Falcons, they're going to get Bradham back. I think you're going to see the defensive line get even better as they get more in shape. Graham had the ankle problem. He didn't play all that much. The guys don't play a lot in the preseason. Compare this defense in your mind to that defense of last year, which was pretty darn good. But this one seems like it might be not only better, but significantly better.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, like you said, it's tough to argue with what they accomplished last year. But they're very good when it counts. I mean, they give up yards, they give up, that kind of stuff. But when you get down to the red zone, they have a way of coming through, as you saw on Thursday. And you're right, they're with Nigel back out there. You're pretty much, they have to be pretty pleased with the way the linebackers played in his absence. Kamu Grugier-Hill and Nate Gary both played pretty well. Jordan Hicks had an outstanding game, so you add Nigel to that mix, and that makes the linebackers less of a weakness than what people thought, I think, coming into the year. And like you said, their defensive line is deep and strong. Secondary, same thing. So, yeah, there's no reason to think that they might even be better than last year.
Dave, you mentioned the linebackers. Jordan Hicks had a very strong game against the Falcons. With Bradham coming back, how good can that duo really be this season for the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, though, the whole key is if Hicks can stay healthy. I mean, he's never been able to do it. There always seems to be some sort of injury at some point that kind of keeps him from reaching his full potential. But we've seen flashes of greatness from him. I mean, when he's healthy and in the lineup, he's as good a middle linebacker as there is in the league in terms of his versatility, his ability to rush the passer, even drop back into coverage. He's a sideline-to-sideline kind of guy that you want in your middle linebacker. And Nigel's extremely athletic. I mean, I would argue that he might have been their most valuable defensive player last year. I mean, he didn't get a whole lot of credit. And, Fletcher Cox, of course, is as good as it gets as a defensive tackle. But in terms of all-around play, I thought Nigel was fantastic. So if you can keep those two guys on the field and healthy, then you have a really special duo there.
I want to get your take on what's happening with all these receivers they brought in. I mean, you brought a bunch of guys in. They end up going with Kamar Aiken. They released Marcus Wheaton. They had in Corey Coleman. They had in Brashard Perryman. Does that kind of reflect on where Alshon Jeffery is, who I guess did not do any 11 on 11? I guess he's back doing some things, but I guess that makes it feel like Jeffery is still not ready or close to getting ready?
Yeah, I think you have to read it that way. I mean, the fact that they're bringing in all these receivers tells you that Alshon might still be a little bit ways away before he's ready to contribute here. I don't know that they were thinking that he was going to take this much time to recover from the torn rotator cuff, but you probably know from your baseball background that that can be a really tricky injury to return from. Of course, granted, he's not throwing fastballs or anything, but I think they're taking a little bit of a patient approach with him as well.
I'll tell you what, Dave, on that, that's a good point. There's times when, maybe not throwing, but there's times when if you have a rotator injury, you'll be in the shower just putting shampoo in your hair and it'll hurt. You'll feel like someone stabbed a knife in your shoulder and you don't know where it came from. It's just random with that injury.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts like heck. It does. My son had it when he was in high school, and it's a extremely painful injury. It takes a while to come back from that. From what I understand, though, he played most of the season last year with it, so I guess he's got a pretty high tolerance for pain. But the sooner they can get him back in there, the better off they are. But I wouldn't rush it either.
I thought there was an interesting question asked about, and I was thinking about this even during the Thursday night when you're in prime time. of the last game you played, you're in the Super Bowl, and then that next game, there's just not the same atmosphere. This is even way different. This is in prime time. This is 1 o'clock in Tampa when it's going to be like 90 degrees down there. Is there some concern from Doug Peterson that lack of intensity feel for a Week 2 regular season game, that it finally catches up to them?
That was a very interesting question. You're right. But I don't know that the atmosphere has that much of a factor. But you were right. I mean, Thursday night was a special circumstance. They're coming off of the Super Bowl and having a national TV audience. But I think the players are here because they're partly because of their ability to focus on each week as its own separate challenge. I would suggest that maybe playing on the road might even help them, because that's going to even sharpen their focus even more, playing in a hostile environment, dealing with the elements like I mentioned before with the heat and humidity. So I wouldn't expect like an emotional letdown, if that's what you're getting at. Maybe later in the year, but I don't think that'll be the case on Sunday.
I'm interested, Dave, in seeing the matchup in the secondary. Evans and Jackson, if DJack can play, he's in the concussion. But that should be a fun one, watching the speedy DJack and the physical Evans up against this Eagles secondary. That should be one of the key matchups.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, with Ronald Darby and Jalen Mills against those two guys. That's going to be like the marquee matchup. I'm a little not worried, but I tend to doubt whether Deshaun will be able to come back in time with the concussion. But if he does, I know he loves playing against the Eagles and, sticking it to them whenever he can. So if it's at all possible, then I know that he'll play. And, yeah, you're right. That's going to be the matchup to watch without a doubt.
No doubt about it. Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City. That should be fun. Yeah, you're right. We'll see if DJack can get back out there. He's in a concussion protocol. They've lost a couple of guys to injury already leading into this week. The Eagles are relatively healthy. We'll have plenty more on the Eagles and the Buccaneers. Dave Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City here on the Sports Bash on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Thanks, Dave.
Oh, thanks, Mike. And before I go real quick, I just wanted to give a shout-out to Pete Thompson. I hope that he makes a quick and speedy recovery and a full recovery. That was a pretty serious injury he suffered the other night, so I'm hoping he'll be back soon.
Yeah, thanks, man, and we'll pass that message along to him.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it, guys.
You got it, Dave
Thanks,
Weinberg from the Press of Atlantic City.